I'm John555, and today I'm continuing my series of MASH retro reviews with Season 5, Episode 12, The Colonel's Horse. So in this episode, Colonel Potter goes on R&R, Sophie gets sick, his horse, and Margaret has an appendicitis and Klinger's being depressed. So, before I get into all that stuff, I want to say that when I first saw the title, I saw a different episode. The episode where an old Korean man who was in either the Korean Empire Cavalry or probably actually drafted into the Japanese Cavalry, thought he was still in the Cavalry and accidentally took Sophie and everything from there. Wrong episode. Still, that's a very good episode and I can't wait to talk about that, but we gotta wait I'm pretty sure, for Charles to show up. But in short, the three plots of this episode actually do complement each other in interesting ways. The Klinger plot not as much, which I would consider the C plot, but it does provide the comedy backing with him pretending to be depressed to get out of the army after asking Colonel Potter to pick up some stuff in Tokyo, which Hawkeye also does as well. In that moment is played as a bit of a comedy, where Hawkeye asks Potter to pick up him some nudist magazines, and Colonel Potter's like, I can't do that, I'm going to be in uniform. And Hawkeye said, well, Mrs. Potter could, and Colonel Potter was like, yep, she's a good sport. I just love that scene. The good comedy, of it, how it subverts expectations. But Klinger had also asked for some fabric to pick up for a new dress that he's making. But of course, he decides doing this, he's going to try a new scheme to get the army, being depressed. And by the time Colonel Potter gets back, he's like, yeah, it seems like you're actually depressed. No, depression's how to get out of the army? Let's get the paperwork. And Klinger jumps up excited, ruining his chances of getting out of the army. And I love that juxtaposition. But Colonel Potter cheers up Klinger by saying, I got that fabric you were looking for, the red. And I just loved that scene though, because honestly, there's been different ways they've handled Klinger cross-dressing to get out of the army. Sometimes more positively, sometimes more negatively. And this is one of the more positive where it's like, portrayed like, yeah, he's doing it to the army, everyone knows it. But he does it well, and he has that knack for fashion, and he likes making those dresses if nothing else. And I love that more positive depiction of it that we see in this episode. Of course, we gotta talk about the other part. So, while Klinger is doing his bit and all that and it fails, there's two other things going on. Sophie, Colonel Potter's horse, gets sick, colic, because she's been eating too much dry grass and not drinking enough water. So they call BJ's father-in-law, who might actually be named after his actor Mike Farrell's real-life father-in-law, because the town they mentioned was the town that Mike Farrell's wife is actually from in Oklahoma, and the last name given is his wife's maiden name, so it might be his actual father-in-law that they're referencing in this episode. So they do that, find out they need to flush Sophie out because of what's going on, and that's what they do, and the whole camp helps them out. Everyone, of course, the only named characters besides Hawkeye, BJ, and Radar are Father Mulcahy and Nurse Kelly, and those are the characters that actually also used in the chain of communication from the water tower to the stable. But what I found most interesting is they do that communication chaining with all four of them, or five, except for once. Once Nurse Kelly is not included. Why, I don't know. The Wikia does not give any reasoning. My best guess is that the footage somehow just wasn't usable. Most likely. That would be the most likely reason. Of course, so that's a success, and when Colonel Potter gets back, Radar tells him that Sophie's clean inside and out, which I just love. But also, Margaret has a chronic appendix issue. Not quite appendicitis, but it might be, and she wants to go to Tokyo to get it taken care of because she does not want Frank operating her. While Colonel Potter does put the kibosh on her going to Tokyo for a elective surgery because it's not acute yet, and they have doctors on hand. But Margaret asks that Colonel Potter asks that Hawkeye be the one to perform the surgery should it be needed, which actually happens after Colonel Potter gets back, and he actually gets to yell at Frank for busting into the operating room not wearing a mask. So, but what really complements those two things though, besides we seeing that, Margaret separating herself from Frank and all that, but what really complements that and Colonel Potter, most specifically his horse, Sophie's part, is at the end of the episode, the ending gag, I guess you could say, is that Hawkeye is, talking to Margaret about her recovery, And Conan Parter's doing the exact same to Sophie, and Sophie neighs, and Hawkeye responds. And it's just a good ending scene with some just good humor there. I should also mention too that there is some other interesting stuff about this episode, such as referencing two films, one that was scandalous because an actress seductively peels gloves off, another one with an actually nude scene, which is very interesting that it was still scandalous when the episode came out, which is interesting that they reference that, but hey, that's a bit more early MASH, something that MASH is not doing as much, but here it's kind of like they call back to that earlier style of humor of MASH where more crass and more sexually innuendos and that kind of stuff. It still does happen in MASH. It is MASH after all. But also too, there is another thing, a anachronism. Hawkeye after Radar spells the town that BJ's father-in-law is in, says M-O-U-S-E as in Mickey Mouse. But the thing is, that song, with the M-O-U-S-E from the Mickey Mouse Club, didn't come out until 1955, 2 years after the war ended. But here's this. This is something I saw on the wiki and I was surprised about, is that Radar's hamster had triplets that were named Manny, Mo, and Jack, which is the names of the mascot for the Pep Boys Auto Parts store. First of all, they had names? That's what I learned out, but here, that company was founded in 1921. So it's not an anachronism, but people think it is according to the wiki. But that's the reference they went with. My first time hearing that before I read the wiki, I thought, oh, probably just referencing the Three Stooges. That's not their names. Huh, weird. Oh well. But no, it's a Pep Boys Auto mascot. Go figure, go figure. But overall, this is actually a really good episode. I love this, the three plots that we got and the way that they complement each other. Well, more the A and B plot. Klinger's plot, which I consider the C plot, does not really complement, just to provide a little bit of the humor of this episode. But in my opinion, this is actually a really good episode. The A and B plot complement each other nicely and also showcase, medical realities. And there's just so much good about this episode. Maybe not the most humor-packed episode, but a very good episode with, I think, some good, heartwarming and heartfelt moments. Mostly about, caring for the people who need help. That namely being Margaret and Conan Parter's host, Sophie in this case, with both their issues, which appendicitis and colic in the host, those are both serious things if not taken care of. But doesn't necessarily present a quite immediate threat unless your appendix has ruptured. But that's all I got to say on this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my latest retro review. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to give this video a like. Also, consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already, and I hope to see you for my very next video.